a favor, can't you see? I'm on a favor to be middle island you. Oh, do me a favor, share my lot. Do me a favor, tie the knot. Darling, don't waver and we'll come smiling through. Say the word, dear, we do as other folks do, raise 2 or 3. It's absurd, dear, that I should have to coax you. Don't be afraid to take a chance with me. Oh, you won't regret it when we're one. Oh, baby, we'll have fun. I won't forget it, so do me a favor, dear. Yes, yes, yes. Listen, honey, have you got $1.90? Well, I got to die. I'm going out here and find a parson. Ha, ha, ha. Yes. My.
The first time he ever got a $100 bill, Al Capone gave it to him. Now, it's a funny thing how that happened. My father was playing in Chicago. See, Al Capone lived in a suburb of Chicago called Joliet, Illinois. And he was playing in a show one night at the Sherman Hotel, Hotel Sherman in Chicago. And one night they pulled up in the car, and the guys come in and told him, said, "Come on, Fats, we want to take you somewhere." He said, "What?" And they pulled a gun on him and told him, "Come on." So my father was trying to think, well, what the hell, whose wife am I going out with now that somebody's going to do this to me, right? He didn't know what the hell the problem was, right? So they took him on, blindfolded him, and took him to some place, took the blindfold off, sat him down, and Al Capone said, "Come on, play for us, Fats." And whatever they asked him to play a tune, they stuck $100 in his pocket. And my father, when he left out of there, they kept him a day and a half. When he left out of there, all his pockets were full of $100 bills.
Got my fingers crossed. Not that I'm superstitious, I'm afraid it's too good to be true. Yada yada, got my fingers crossed. No wonder I'm suspicious. I'm so gay in skies, I'm much too blue. Blue, don't want no trouble with old man trouble. That goes double, yes, on account of because of love, yes. Got my fingers crossed. This thrill is so delicious. I'm afraid it's too good to be true. Cash, yeah, swing it on out there, yeah. What I say, yeah. Well, all right.
In the jazz age, from say 1922, the music was actually created for dancing because everybody, the world was dance crazy then everywhere. The gangsters ran all the night business. I mean, like they were bootlegging, and they used the nightclubs to, to sell their wares, and they opened up nightclubs all over the country and had bands and chorus girls and things in order to sell the whiskey. And then also what made the music business was dance halls. They had dance halls. Every little town you could go to had a pavilion, a dance pavilion, and they'd have a house band of local musicians working there.
My father started, when he was a little boy, well, his father was a deacon in the Abyssinia Baptist Church in Harlem. My father used to come into the church, and Adam Clayton Powell Sr. used to pump the organ for him. My father would sneak in and play jazz. And he also used to play in the church. He used to play religious music in there. But I remember my father telling me that his father whipped him a couple of times for playing jazz on the organ in Abyssinia Baptist Church. But even back then, my father had a lot of cronies and friends in Harlem that they could see that he had a talent when he was very young. He was 13, 12, and 11, and he was playing the piano and organ. And he played religious music. He used to get all the music that he could get a hold of and play it. He'd play Scott Joplin, he'd play classical music, anything he could read or learn from, he'd sit down and play. And he used to play, when he was a kid, he used to play 8, 9 hours a day. And he'd sneak out and go into the clubs where the guys were playing or the after-hour places. He'd get out of his bed 2 o'clock in the morning, sneak out the house, right? And go to these clubs and sit down and play and practice and play and watch the guys playing piano. James P. Johnson, Lucky Roberts, they all took him under his wing. Willie Line Smith got my father the first long pants he had, because James P. once brought my father to Willie Line Smith and said, let him sit down and play. And Willie Line Smith, not with them knickers, he's not gonna sit down and play. So let's go get him a pair of pants. Right after that, when Willie Line heard my father play, he fell in love with him right away. And that started his career, right in New York.
Did you hear what the lady said?
Not exactly. What did she say?
She said, I got a snap in my finger, yeah, and a rhythm in my walk.
You don't tell me.
As the elephant said, living in a great big way.
Oh, get away from here. That's too much.
I got a handful of nothing.
What?
But I peep at it like a hawk.
Peep at nothing?
I'm doing okay, living in a great big way.
Tell me more, tell me more.
Listen here, son. I'm the salt in the ocean. I'm the sun in the sky. I'm a Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Not the president.
I'm $1 million, long as I got snap in my finger.
Oh, stop.
And a rhythm in my walk.
Get away from here.
I got the devil to pay. I'm living in a great big way.
Well, let me tell you something.
What is it?
Gotta snap my finger.
Yeah, yeah.
Rhythm in my mouth. Doing okay. Living in a great big way. Got a handful of nothing.
Go ahead, yeah.
Watching like a hawk.
No, you didn't.
As the elephants say, I'm living in a gigantic, colossal way.
Tell me some more.
I'm salt in the ocean. I'm that sun up in the sky. I'm a Franklin D. Roosevelt. I've $1 million as long as I retain that snap in the fingers and the rhythm in the walk. Oh, dear. Doing okay. I'm living in a great big way.
In the 20s and 30s, they had what we call house rent parties. And usually to throw the police off, they would call them joints. And Fats Waller and Andrews got together and did a thing called This Joint is Jumpin', and here it is. This joint is jumping, ready jumping. Come in, cats, and check your hats. I mean, this joint is jumping.
And that's how stride piano became popular, because they just used one piano player in a party, and stride piano was so powerful that bombs could go off in the room and you could still hear the piano. I mean, you could dance, yell, scream, kick down doors, whistle, anything you want, and you could still hear that piano playing.
My, oh, yes, yes. My, they have a new expression, long old Harlem way, that tells you when a party is 10 times more than gay. To say that things are jumping leaves not a single doubt. Watch all these cats, watch everything when you hear somebody shout. This joint is jumping, really jumping. Come in, cats, and check your hands. I beat this joint is jumping. Piano's pumping, dancers are bumping. Every Moses on his toes, in fact, the joint is jumping. Check your weapons at the door, just pay a quarter. Burn your leather around the floor, grab anybody's daughter. The roof is rocking.
Red parties was always after-hour kind of thing, where that sporting fellas, you know, gamblers, and they had poker and craps and all that, and sold whiskey and stuff. First of all, you had to be a certain age. If you wasn't, you could tell a good lie or look like you were older to get into them. But once you get in there, drink a whiskey with 50 cents, and you could eat a dinner for 75 cents. And usually, it was owned by a landlady.
It's really jumping.
I know it.
Come in, cats, and check your hats. I mean, this joint is jumping.
Hey.
Piano thumping, dancers are bumping. Every Moses on his toes. In fact, the joint is jumping.
Tell 'em about it.
Check your weapons at the door. Now be sure and pay your quarter.
That's it, get the
Burn your
quarter.
leather on the floor, boy, and grab anybody's daughter.
Except
the
my
roof is
daughter.
rocking. The neighbors are knocking. We're all bummed when the wagon comes. I mean, this joint is jumping.
Turn it loose. Bring it
Give me the police!
Get your big feet binging, there's plenty in the kitchen. What is that? They just walked in. Just look at the way it's switching. Oh, mercy. Don't mind now, because I'm in power. I got bail if we go to jail. I mean, this joint is jumping. Yeah. Oh, don't ever give your right name. No. Don't ever do that. I mean, this joint is jumping. Yeah.
It was the swinging of the left hand that designated as being stride piano. It was practically taking the part that a bass violin now takes in other orchestrations, because stride piano players usually were playing without bass violins or anything in those days.
Other guys, when they play the bass, when they stride, they play the bass, they play a single note in the bass, you know, and then accompanied with a chord on top. Well, Fats used to have a chord on both places, but only the lower chord would be a tenth with the other notes in between with the other fingers, and he would then play the chord on top. Now, Teddy Wilson and Earl Hines would play a tenth, but they didn't put the middle notes in and play the chord on top with the stride piano I'm talking about. But guys played that according to their physical ability to reach a tenth. But Fats reached it easily, and that's why he was able to apply other notes in the middle of it. And then there's a story about Earl Hines that he had the web cut in his left hand in order to stretch his hand out, the web between his thumb and his first finger. And then I heard another piano player that had an extension put on his little finger so he could reach a flat tenth.
They did consider him the epitome of stride piano playing, and he was king of the stride. Now, a lot of people, they don't realize that my father's biggest thing that made him a real professional that paid him the money was not the fact that he could play stride piano, but it was the fact that he had a personality. So that when my father took songs like, I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter, I remember distinctly that Victor asked him to record that song. They went to everybody else and they turned it down. And my father said, okay, I'll record it, and he made a hit out of it. But it's the way that he sang the song that made the thing a hit.
I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you. I'm gonna write words oh so sweet, they're gonna knock me off my feet. a lot of kisses on the bottom. I'll be glad I got 'em. I'm gonna smile and say, I hope you're feeling better. And close with love the way you do. I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you.
The best writer my father ever had, lyricist that ever wrote with him, was Andy Razaf. Razaf was a short form of his name. His name was Razafikio. His grandmother or grandfather was a royalty in Madagascar. And he was a very learned man, and he had a good grasp of the English language, and he could really put lyrics together because he was good at poetry.
Andy recognized his talent and made friends with him and encouraged him. I think really that Andy was probably mainly responsible for taking Fats downtown and organizing him, his finances to the extent that he would really get some real money and royalties for his songs rather than just peddle them for drinks and pocket money, or drinking funds, as we would say.
When they were going to do something, he said, Fats, I want you to be here at 10. Now, don't come in here at 1 o'clock talking about you got stuck on a bridge or something like that. Just come over here at 10. And he wouldn't let my father get away with coming in at 12 or 1 when he was supposed to be there at 10. Consequently, they got a lot of work done.
Fats was such a great composer that he felt he could put the phone book to music. Andy was also a very talented lyricist, as U.B. Blake often said. So they were really a wonderful team. The only problem, Andy was really very serious about his ambition to get things done and written and all. And Fats was so happy-go-lucky, he didn't really want to be tied down too long.
Guess you know he wrote Honeysuckle Rose, and I think the verse to Honeysuckle Rose is one of the premier verses ever written about a song. I mean, the way that Andy hooked these lyrics up to Honeysuckle Rose was fantastic.
Look at these fine, delicious dinners out here this afternoon. The gas, ain't there? Why, you lovely thing, where have you been all my life? Say, do you think I can take the keys for one of you girls there? Huh? What you say? Well, all right then, baby. I'm with you 100%. Come here, I want to tell you something. Every honeybee feels jealousy when they see you out with me. Don't blame them, goodness knows. Honeysuckle Rose. When you pass by flowers through Zion, I know the reason why. You're much sweeter, goodness knows. Honeysuckle Rose. I don't buy sugar. You just have to touch my cup. You're my sugar. So sweet when you stir it up, when I'm taking those sips from your lips. Does the honey drip? Mercy. Confession? Goodness knows. You my honeysuckle rose, yeah. Sweeter, goodness knows, honeysuckle rose. I don't buy sugar. You just have to touch my cup. You're my sugar. So sweet when you stir it up, when I'm taking those sips from your lips. Does the honey drip? Confection, goodness knows, honeysuckle rose.
It took my brother and I a long time to wake up that he would tell us, we're going by to see a cousin, but don't tell your mother that you're going to see this cousin. And how my brother and I got wise to who his girlfriends were is he always brought them a piano. So that when he went in their house, he'd play the piano. And he'd nudge my brother and I and say, now don't tell your mama I brought you over to see your cousin. And there'd be some chick there, right? He'd be going place to place. And my brother said, here's another one. I said, Ronald, here's another one. He said, yeah, I see. I don't like her. We'd say, I like the other one better, you know what I mean? We just talking about it. They all treated us nice. I mean, my father thought he was getting over, but we knew what was going on, you know. And my mother did too. Half the time, my mother used to go on the road with him to try to keep him halfway straight, but you know, it's hard. You know, when women are constantly throwing themselves at you, it's kind of hard to back off on everyone, you know.
I never knew him to be, I mean, I think I took for granted that he was a womanizer and that there were girls always hanging over the piano when he was in nightclubs. But he was never one to, he was not an exhibitionist, you know, about his sexism. He was quite the gentleman as I saw him always.
Harlem was a cultural center for Black America after World War I, and indeed it was becoming that before World War I. But after World War I, there was an enormous migration of blacks into Harlem. With this new infusion, particularly as far as popular music, jazz, was concerned, a lot of different kinds of music was being heard. This includes blues as well as the more sophisticated kinds of jazz that would be represented by something like ragtime.
It don't mean a thing, you ain't got that swing. Do up, 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 do up. Don't mean a thing, all you got to do is swing. Do up, do up, do up, do up, do up, do up. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hard. Give that rhythm everything you got, Prudy Mama. Don't mean a thing, you ain't got that swing.
We always lived in Harlem until we moved out to Long Island. I mean, we kept an apartment in Harlem somewhere. We either lived on, I was born on 133rd Street, Lenox Avenue. That's right, smack dab in the middle of Harlem.
I was in Baltimore with McKinney's Cotton Pickers when Cab came through there with his band. He had 3 saxophones, and he added me on as a 4th saxophone and brought me to New York. And they used to take me up to the Cotton Club. Let's see, I think Duke was playing there. And the show was so fabulous with the girls and all, it just upset me, you know, to see all of this, because where I came from, out west, we have never seen anything like that. If they had a nightclub, maybe they had 2 or 3 girls or 4 girls, but the Cotton Club had about 24 girls. They had 12 dancing girls, and then they had 12 what you call posing girls that walked around, you know, big girls. And they were all very beautiful girls. Harlem ran 24 hours a day. I mean, the the Cotton Club would close at 4. Cotton Club and Connie's Inn and Smalls and those places would close at 4. Then everybody would go to the bars and hang out.
They give you a gold key. That was like a privilege to have one. And you show the gold key to the man at the door, and he say, "Oh, come right in." You go in after our place, 4 o'clock in the morning. You stay in there till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, we just go around the clock, 24 hours a day. So there was always something going on. And the only time, a lot of people didn't want to go to bed because they're afraid they're going to miss something. You know what I mean?
Way up in Harlem at a table for two. There was 4 of us, me, your big feet, and you. From your ankles up, you show our knees. Yes, but from that down, exactly too much feet. Yes, your feet's too big. Can't stand you 'cause your feet's too big. Say I can't tolerate you 'cause your feet's too big. Join in choir. What, sweet water? How's that for a vocal? Ain't it a killer? Where'd you get 'em? Your gal, she loves you. She thinks you're nice. She claims you got everything to take you to paradise. Ain't that a killer? She likes your loving. She likes your ring. Ah. But man, oh man, them things is too big. Yes, your feet's too big. Can't stand you 'cause your feet's too big. Say I can't tolerate you, nay, 'cause your feet's too big. Cedric, on your feet and earn your salary, son, blow. Play that doghouse music, I love it. That's it, give me the growl. Say your pedal extremities are colossal, but to me you ain't nothing but an old fossil. Yes, you got me walking, talking, and squawking, 'cause your feet's too big. Yes, your feet's too big. Can't stand you 'cause your feet's too big. Say I can't tolerate you, I really hate you, 'cause your feet's too big. In fact, your pedal extremities are a bit obnoxious. Where did you get them, son? Where did you get them? One never knows do what. I've got my fingers crossed. Not that I'm superstitious. I'm afraid it's too good to be true. Look at there, look at there, look at there. I've got my fingers crossed. No wonder I'm suspicious. I'm so gay and skies are much too blue. What I say, what I say, what I say. Yes. No.
Every time I ever went with my father on the road in the summer, it was one big party. I mean, my father, just one party after another. There was no, when my father was in a show, like for instance, he played at the Royal Theater in Baltimore. These were the theater circuits, and they do 5 shows a day. They start doing the shows at 10 o'clock in the morning and don't stop till 2 o'clock at night. You go into my father's dressing room, there'd be 30 people deep in a room that would only hold 10 people comfortably. There'd be 30 people deep, bottles, drinking, hey, Fats doing this, so and so. He could hardly get in there himself. And he'd be like that all day long.
If I drink as much as him, I'd be dead, out, because he could drink. He'd go to work, and when I first met him in Cincinnati, he'd go to work and take a gallon jug of whiskey, which was bootleg whiskey, and set it down by the piano. And by the time the night had gone, that bottle would be empty. And he would still be just like he never had a drink.
After 3 o'clock, we'd go into town to where a couple of the gangsters in town had a after-hour place. They knew how to do business with the higher-ups uptown, and they were allowed to remain open. They served fried chicken, hot biscuits with honey, and whiskey, and sometimes gambling. And they had an open bar where you could get any kind of drink that you wanted after hours. So Fats would go down there, and we'd come in from work, and he'd go down there to, he ate quite a bit. He was a heavy eater, and we'd go in there, and the owners would be so glad to see Fats. Everything was on the house. They'd start bringing out them hot biscuits with the honey, and delicious fried chicken he had there. And they would always have a full bottle of liquid spirits at his disposal. And if he felt like playing, which he usually did after he had a couple of shots, he'd go up and entertain, and the gangsters were getting free entertainment, and he was having a whole lot of fun.
The gangsters were good. I remember Legs Diamond. I guess you've heard about him. He used to come by my house, give my brother and I $10 a piece. Just come in, here's $10 a piece for you. Joe Louis used to come by the house. He used to give my brother and I $10 a piece. Here's $10. Go ahead and buy yourself some candy. Tallulah Bankhead used to come by my house too. Movie stars, Humphrey Bogart. I mean, anybody would stop by my house 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and ring the bell and wouldn't hesitate. I mean, they just like, let's go buy Fats. And 3 o'clock in the morning and ring the doorbell. And my old man said, come on in. They'd sit down and have a jam session. But all his life was like that. Our whole family life was like that. And when we moved out in St. Albans, my father had a Hammond organ, put it in the house. We used to have the neighbors coming over there at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. They just come in and they hear my father playing the organ and sit down. And he'd keep on playing. He loved to play. My father got the idea of jitterbug waltz from me playing Bach Inventions. That's one song that I can say that I had a direct bearing on my father writing. And that was originally the first jazz waltz ever written, Jitterbug Waltz. Half the songs he sold made $5 or $6 million. The half that he sold. And he's got credit in ASCAP for 450, but my own man wrote at least 900 or 1,000 tunes. And he was only 39 years old when he died. Andy Rizzoff and my father both were ripped off by the publishers. My father would sell a publisher a song and he'd give him $50 down, and then he wouldn't see any royalties for maybe a year and a half, and then when he get a check, it would be for $30 or $40. Now, and the song would be hit on a hit parade, and my father would be getting $30 or $40. So what Andy and my father used to do, they used to go, there was a place in New York called, at 1619 Broadway, called the Brill Building, and most of the publishers in New York were in that building. So my father would write a song with Andy, and Andy would write about 6 or 8 sets of lyrics to the same song, and go into one publisher and sell it to them, go into another publisher with another set of lyrics and sell it to them, go into another publisher with another set of lyrics and sell it to them, and then when he got through selling it 5 or 6 times, he'd sit up and say, now you all battle out who owns the song. But he was constantly ripped off, so that's the way they off-balanced that rip-off. They used to do that. My father, for many a year, I mean, they were talking about taking him to court and whatnot for the same song, but they'd always settle it, you know, and them publishers knew they were ripping my old man off. My father was the type of person that if he had $50 in his pocket, he would spend it, And if he could borrow 50 from somebody, he would borrow 50 from him. Money meant nothing to him, just a means to an end. He didn't put away money for a rainy day. My father never had to worry about bank accounts because he didn't believe in them. What he did was just live from day to day, and he made a lot of money, but my father spent a lot of money. I mean, when the first Lincoln Continental ever came out, my father bought one right away. As soon as he saw the car, he bought it right away. And you could come up to my father and give him a hard story, and if he had any money, he'd give it to you. Here's $10. Fats, I ain't ate in a week. Here's $10. Go get yourself something to eat. And he had a million friends, and nobody could ever harm my father. Any place he went, he had a lot of friends. My father believed in the 3 Bs, Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms. The first time that my father ever really got serious and walked out on the stage at Carnegie Hall, I mean, and he played, I mean, he was the epitome of a pianist playing jazz. And the thing was a flop because my father didn't sing, didn't joke. That hurt him in the worst way because he was trying to be a serious musician. And when even doing a concert, somebody say, sing a song, Fats, you know what I mean? And he's trying to be serious. You know, he's got a real program all played out, and, you know, and it's all musical. And somebody yells in the audience, let me hear you sing, Fats. How about a little Ain't Misbehaving, right? There you go. Now, when I used to go to the Apollo Theater, my father used to wrap the curtain around him while he was singing. And he was a big man, 300 pounds, and he'd start doing a hula, and people would fall out. You know what I mean? He was just that type of person.
Well, we've all heard about musicians who can make a piano talk. Our guest this evening not only makes the piano talk, but he talks right back to the piano. And so, seated at the crockery box, ready to give out with Ain't Misbehaving and Handful of Keys, is the eminent composer virtuoso, that harmful little armful, Mr. Fats Waller. Yeah.
No one to talk with all by myself. No one to walk with, all I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you and you.
All the nightclubs and dance halls had a broadcast, a live broadcast in Chicago. Every hotel in Chicago had a band, and then you could sit up all night listening to one band right after the other on the radio.
My father got a 15-minute show in Cincinnati. In fact, we moved to Cincinnati, and I lived in Cincinnati 9 months when my father had the show WWRL coming from Cincinnati. It was a 15-minute show, and the station in Cincinnati, when my father had it, was the most popular station in Ohio. And for that 15 minutes, people would turn in at night to listen to my father.
Ah, beat me, Daddy. Beat me, yes, I just ate the ball. Come on, you termite. Yeah.
It was a very popular show. In fact, they tried to get him to sign a contract for a half-an-hour show. But by that time, my father had bids to go on Hobby Lobby and the Charlie McCarthy show and the big shows here that were considered big shows.
Mr. Waller, you're a big fella, aren't you?
Wait a minute. Hold everything.
Kind of round.
I'm not fat now.
Oh.
Wait a minute. I just come in the large economy size.
Oh.
That's all.
Yeah. Would you mind turning around a minute?
Turning around? What for?
I just want to see how the other half lives.
It pulled him out of another category, and he went from like that jazz to that stride piano into what you would call a headliner. And he stopped doing little things, and he started doing big things. Then he went into pictures. He did a picture with Lena Horne and Bill Robinson called Stormy Weather, which was a showcase for all black people at the time.
No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm looking at me on the shelf, ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you, for you, for you, for you. I know for certain the one I love, I'm through with flirting, it's you that I'm thinking of, ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you.
When my father first played in pictures, they wanted him to be a shoeshine boy, see, because he was black and he couldn't have any kind of stature, so they wanted him to be a shoeshine boy. My father said he would not play a shoeshine boy. He didn't give a damn what they did, right? And then he turned around and he said, well, how about an elevator boy? He said, okay, I'll play an elevator boy, but I will not play a shoeshine boy. So when I stopped to think about that, I said, he got them to give in just a little bit, but what's the difference between an elevator boy and a shoeshine boy? It's really not anything different, except that my father wasn't going to give that, he wasn't going to give all the way down.
Mr. Bolden, I'm the one that's sure delighted to see you back.
Thanks, Ben. You're looking fine.
I hate to bother you, boss, but I thought maybe you could find a spot for me in your new show.
Well, you take a tip from me, Ben. Your spot's right here in this elevator.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
A lot of times I hear, especially black people, talk about why did those people in those days act like that? But that's the only way they could make it in pictures. I mean, they didn't have any money to make pictures. The white people had the money, so the black people had to go along. And the dues that they had to pay, Mantan Moore and all these old stars, they call them handkerchief heads and whatnot, but that's the only way they could get in. And once they got in, they tried to make it a little better. And today, it's altogether different, but it's people like my father and Mantan Moore and Willie Best. Those guys are the guys that made it able for guys to do what they're doing today. So you got to pay your dues, you know what I mean?
Well, he just had a job. He was glad to have it because to be a token. I like to be a token now someplace because that's all you're going to ever get.
There were always places where black guys just couldn't work because they weren't accepted there. It's like in, you could take Chicago for an instant, even as far back as in the 40s and 50s. There were certain places downtown that never had a black entertainer or a musician in the inside of the doors. They just were not hired.
We all, most in those southern towns, stayed with private families because there was no hotels for us. And maybe they have one little, sometimes they'd have a little hotel, black hotel, own hotel, but most of us stayed in private families. Now with Cab Calloway, we had a train. We stayed on the Pullman. We used to go do all our one-nighters through the South on Pullman. With the Pullman, they'd pull the train into the town and sidetrack our car. We had a baggage car and a Pullman car, and we'd play the dance, come back and get on the train, and they'd pull us off the next town.
My father played what they call a Southern Circuit. When you went down to the South, they had a line down the middle, and the whites would be on one side, and the blacks would be on the other side. And they'd be listening to the same music. But They couldn't intermingle. I mean, that was one bad thing about all of that. And they would still intermingle, though, but they do it kind of slick, like, you know, wouldn't be out in public, you wouldn't do that. But my father didn't play the Southern Circuit too often. That's for that reason. That's the reason he didn't, because he didn't like it.
The next number is What Did I Do to Be So Black and Blue?
Black and Blue is an interesting song because it's unique in Waller's output in that its title is an obvious reference to the conditions that he and members of the black race found themselves living under. What did I do to be so black and blue? It's an enormously poignant refrain. He was not a Langston Hughes. He was not a Paul Robeson. We have, to my mind, no indications that he had a deep, profound commitment to exposing injustice. I think rather he preferred to satirize in a very delicate way, perhaps not always perceptible to white people, some of the foibles of their civilization, and preferred to laugh off the indignities that he had to suffer as a way of dealing with them rather than fighting them in an open kind of way. That may have been a matter of personality.
He could be hurting inside, but when he started to entertain, it would all go away, and he just entertained. He had that way of getting it across and entertaining, and then when he gets through entertaining, that hurt might come back again. But that's the only time he would know it, because while he was entertaining, you'd say, gee, you'd start laughing. The minute my father walks into a place, it would just light up, like Luna Park. I mean, it would light up. People would light up. Everybody, hey, Fats, listen, do so-and-so. And then he'd start right off. And he loved that kind of atmosphere.
No one to talk with all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. You fine rascal, you. I know for certain the one I love. I'm through with flirting, it's you that I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you, just you. Like Jack Horner in a corner, don't go nowhere.
What do I care? Your kisses, my dear, are worthwhile waiting for. Believe me, dear.
He was on a train and he just kept going, that's all, till he died. And he'd be so tired, sometimes he'd lay in the bed for 3 days. Now, he'd been up 10 days. Maybe he'd get a cat nap here, cat nap there, drinking, eating sparsely. He lived in the fast lane. When he went to California, and on his way back, he died on a train. He dissipated a lot, drank a lot, rest broken. Takes a toll after a while. So he had so much talent based in him that I guess, you notice the people with a whole lot of talent, they don't usually live very long. They're here, they do their thing real quick and get out of here.
Sweet essence of pink buttermilk. Look what's going on here. Come out of there, you rascal, you. That's easy, isn't it, Johnson? Take me, darling, take me to heaven.
No one to talk with all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you.
You better save your confection for me.
I know for certain ain't the one I love.
You do?
I'm through with flirting, it's you that I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving my love for you.
Oh, pat me on my back and call me shorty.
Like Jackie Horner in the corner, don't go nowhere.
The only thing that he had time for was partying and music. And basically, it all came from the music, because my father would only stop partying for the music, which meant that the music came first.
Saving all my love for you.
Come here so I can tell you something, baby. Like Jack Horner in a corner, don't go nowhere. I don't care. Your kiss is always waiting for. Believe me.
Ah, but I don't stay out late. I don't care.
That's
so.
fine.
I'm home about 8. Me and my radio.
Well, all right.
Ain't misbehaving. Saving my love for you.
I'm saving my love, baby. Saving all my love for you. Yeah.
And now, here it comes. That one and only composition, Honeysuckle Rose, by yours truly, little Fatsy Waller. And here it is. Take it away, boys. We in the groove for it, Honeysuckle Rose.